Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Ramble. Today, we're going to be covering a few different topics. One big one is obviously Ruinous powers. There is a beta testing going on right now with the Ruinous powers and the updated versions of the prayers, which there are some very, very good changes. We will get into it. First, I want to just say, and this will also be shown in the blog, you can reorder your prayers, but you need to have the prayer setting on RuneLite enabled. So just click the little switch on your RuneLite settings of prayer, and then you can click enable prayer reordering, and you can move stuff around. And then when you're done moving it around, be sure to disable, and then your prayers will function correctly. So I just got to say, I'm a huge fan of that. Thank you, Jagex, for just doing that. Like, oh my God, the beta testings are so bad when your offensive prayers like up here and like over here. It's just like horrible. So I'm excited about it. I can also actually go do some LMS too. So, shout out to Iron Amp 89. What a legend. Yes, I can do some LMS and I can actually do like the pure and the Zerk mode and not be just raging over the muscle memory. Anyway, first thing I want to cover is actually this update that came to RS3. So RS3, this is something, so I was streaming last night. By the way, go follow me on Twitch. Also, down in the description, guys, if you did not know, all of these rambles are on Spotify. Every single ramble is on Spotify. That's not the video segments of it. It's just audio. But I keep getting questions on that, on like previous rambles, people commenting like, I wish these were on Spotify. They are. They are on Spotify now. So go just follow it on Spotify if you're at work or something. You want to listen to the rambles and you just don't want to hop on your YouTube app. You can check it out down there. Okay, so RuneScape. This is RuneScape 3. They have had a max cash increase, and I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's actually really cool that they did this. I didn't even think it was possible. Well, RS3's engine is actually updated. I guess our engine is just total dog shit, and it can't like update certain little, integers and stuff like that. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share this because it's pretty insane. So it's time to liquidate those spirit shards, folks. With today's update, you're no longer limited to trading up to 2.147 billion gold. You can now trade up to 2.147 quintillion gold. Quintillion. What the fuck? Not even just trillion, not quadrillion, just straight up quintillion, which is literally a billion times more. Okay. Anyway, so look at this. This is the visual of it. This is how much gold you can now have on RS3 compared to the previous. So yeah, a billion times more GP you can now hold. A billion times. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, I thought that was really cool. I wonder what the colors are. I don't play RS3. I never have. But I wonder what it would look like in game when you actually have, like, there's no way anybody has even close to this amount of money. I don't even know if the entire game has this amount of money, right? Like, I actually am not even going to try to do the math on that. But like a max cash a billion times, there's no way, like there's no possible shot that there's that much gold even circulating in RS3, right? Anyway, I just think that's really cool. I wish OSRS would do something like this. They don't need to raise it to quintillion. They could just raise it to 2.147 billion. Or sorry, trillion. So yeah, it can get up to like 2 trillion. I just think platinum tokens, I think even though there's probably a little bit of nostalgia to the 2.147 billion, I think platinum tokens is just gross looking. I think it looks really Toontowny. And I wish we could have something like this. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. If OSRS should get a new max, it doesn't need to be quintillion again. It could just be trillion. So just this amount. Anyway, thought that was pretty interesting that RS3 is going down that road. It only took like 22 years for the game to finally update their max cash, which is pretty insane. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which I was going to mention a few days ago, but I guess I'll mention it now, is Automelogy and a few other people retweeted this. There was a Reddit post, and Automelogy just said, Reddit based? Also, I just got to say, Automelogy will be having a second appearance on the Sebe cast tomorrow. So that'll be uploaded probably Friday morning. So if you guys are interested in hearing Automelogy once again, here's the announcement tweet. So if you guys want to go post a topic down in the description, there's also a Twitter link, so you can guys follow me there and offer a topic there. But yeah, he posted this, and this came from Reddit, so I want to read it to you guys. The general Reddit consensus on basically everything about the game has been the opposite of what I and the community of the past think is the right direction of the game. I feel like COVID bringing in a lot of new and casual players and backported content, attempting to appeal to people who played around 2010-ish, has really skewed the player base away from what OSRS was meant to be. OSRS is a niche MMO and should be treated as such. The more you try and genericize it to make the game appeal to people that doesn't appeal to, the more you alienate the people who enjoy it for what it is. Unfortunately, in a capitalist world, maintaining a game for the people that enjoy it isn't profitable, and therefore it must be changed and warped to increase player count, which brings in people who do not enjoy the game. So they change the fundamentals of the game, and the general consensus shifts. And the game eventually dies when the casual crowd gets bored and moved on, and the niche community is left with a game they don't enjoy. So many people advocate for content and updates that would have been heavily downvoted and laughed at just a few years ago. OSRS is losing its identity and losing its niche by attempting to appeal to people who do not enjoy the game as it exists. I genuinely believe that if you can't enjoy OSRS as it exists right now, like imagine it goes a year without updates, if that would put you off playing, then you just don't like OSRS, because there's far more than 1 year's worth of content in this game. Or if you want to change a fundamental aspect of the game to suit your tastes more. OSRS is a niche MMO, and it'll kill itself by trying to be anything else. If only we had a case study of RuneScape attempting to be something it's not and failing drastically to the point it had to be restarted from a decade prior. I'm not saying the game should have no changes. I'm not saying it shouldn't change its foundations or stray from its niche. I'm saying it shouldn't change its foundations or stray from its niche, because that ends up with a slop of compromise that no one will enjoy. Gamers who want a modern game with modern grinds and modern systems, go play a modern game. Gamers who want an old school experience with enjoyable, lengthy, repetitive grinds can play OSRs. Gaming in 2023 is so fucking low attention span, MTX fueled, instant gratification bollocks, and that's what OSRs is turning into by trying to appeal to a modern crowd. There are thousands and thousands of games at your fingertips right now. Go play one that matches your taste instead of ruining the foundation of this one. I think this is great. I think this is a great post. Now, they're not going into specifics here. I think we all have a different view of what this game is and what it means to be old school. And I also think I can see almost like the opposite of this post being made. Like, what is actually happening that's making you feel this way? Is it just you saying something that sounds romantic? Like, this sounds romantic and stuff. And, if something drastic as EOC really did come out, then like this post would make a lot of sense. But it just feels like it has been a very gradual descent into really trying to appeal to a modern crowd. And even when I was talking to Aiza and Sween on last week's Sabecast, it does sound like it's a business at the end of the day. They're trying to get more and more and more new players involved. And there was even topics in the Twitter thread that was talking about how can we get more new players to play this game? And that, I don't know what exactly it is about that question in particular, but it always kind of irks me, because I've actually got it on like multiple different Sabecasts with J-Mods, is this question of how can we appeal to more new players? Like, how can we get more people into this game? And like, selfishly, I think a lot of us can agree, if we're really old school players, like, we don't really want a bunch of new players that have never played this game to play. We just want to enjoy the old school vibe of this game, and we understand that like children are not playing this game. This is our generation of a game, and it'll probably die with our generation, let's be honest. So I am so sorry about my allergies this morning. It's just so bad during this early summertime, so I apologize. So I don't know. I was just thinking like, I don't think anything will ever change from this. I don't even think if like the entire community was for this, anything would change at Jagex. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I feel like inevitably this game is trying to grow and grow and grow JMods last week also were talking about them trying to introduce new languages and new locations for this game to be played. So, they're trying to expand on every front. And I understand that completely. Who wouldn't want something to grow? But we have to keep with the core values of OSRS and not try to go too extreme in a direction that most games take, which is just easy and modern and all this cringe shit that we see in every fucking game. Have you guys even tried? Listen, I used to be such a big mobile gamer when I was a kid. Like when I was in high school, when I was in middle school and high school, I was obsessed with the App Store and downloading games and playing mobile games, because mobile games were actually semi-decent back then. You could just pay $1 for a game and there was no in-app purchases, or pay like up to, I don't know, $10. But that was extortionate, but I would still buy a game for $10. But nowadays, every single game is free, and it just drowns you in trying to get, like, they just tried to drain your wallet of everything you're worth for this, like, the stupidest dopamine hits of all time. It's actually awful. A big part of it is probably just age, growing up, and just realizing I don't really like mobile games anymore. But I swear, I don't think that's all it is. I think games have just gone downhill big time, and companies realize they can make fucking bank by just putting out absolute dog shit, and you'll still get just a bunch of players to play it. So I think old school should really take a stance on, like, almost like make it known, like almost make a post saying like, hey, we're aware that all like a lot of games suck nowadays, and we're going to try to be like that shining lighthouse that just, no, we're not going to appeal to this. We're not going to drag our game down just so we can get temporary numbers or whatever. I think we really should, as a community and as just like at Jagex, just really, I don't know, almost like comfort the community and saying like, we're aware, like our game is something very special. Because I think old school is seriously like the most special game in like right now, like ever. I think it's seriously it's just so old school. It hasn't changed that far from its core values. It could. It has. I mean, look at RS3, what happened to that game. And I know people are still like, oh, well, people need to like just relax on RS3. RS3 is a good game. Yeah, maybe it has like some really cool content, but they fucked it up so hard by adding microtransactions. What the fuck? Like, dude, the Gower brothers literally said like I fucking worship those guys, because they literally knew what was up. They said at the early beginning of the beginning of RuneScape, like, we will never, ever add microtransactions or anything that can devalue your progress in this game, ever. Like, we find that just absolutely, like, horrible for a game, and especially a game of this type, like an MMO, where the whole reason we play this is for achievement, the sense of achievement, and this sense of, just constant progression. And if you just kill it by just having people with credit cards just gaining levels for free and getting items, from real world into the game, it's just horrible. And that's literally what RS3 did. They got greedy as fuck and did that. They ruined the game that we all love. And then they literally had to come out with old school. And if old school goes down that road, I know the JMods have said that they will never add microtransactions to old school. But they also have made a lot of promises that don't get followed through in the next few years, because we all kind of forget. We're like, oh yeah, that's not that big of a deal. So I could see the community. I could almost see like, this is a really like dark view, but I could actually see this happening is, 5 years from now, Jagex has really buckled down and saying we need to grow this game as much as humanly possible. So we're going to do anything and everything we can in our possibility to grow this game. And then you're going to have like, over half of the player base that doesn't even care about old school, but we're all just catering to what, the populace wants, which is, oh, we want like faster XP on every skill. And so we start going down this road, and then we go down the road of like, oh, well, like the majority of the player base that are all new Andes that don't actually care about the game want to have microtransactions. So they literally run a poll and they said, we said in the past that we wouldn't allow microtransactions, but now since the majority of you guys in the community actually want it, we're going to allow it. And then there's going to be microtransactions. This game's going to fucking die. And then we're all going to be like in our 40s or, 30s and 40s. And at that point, they can't come out with an old school RuneScape because we're all like just boomers at that point and we just don't care anymore. So the game just fully dies. No, I don't know. I'm worried. I'm a little bit worried. I think we all have that little bit of worry inside of us. I don't think the game's going anywhere like really. I don't think that they're making any horrible drastic changes at all, but it's something to be aware of. And I like a post like this that it almost brings us back to reality of like, okay, yes, nothing drastic is necessarily happening right now, but we have to be aware as a community that those of us that really love old school for what it is, we need to remember that, and we need to like stand up for integrity and the values of this game and what makes this game great and what we all love this game for, like what it is. So I think it's great for people to like stand up and just like say things that we all agree with, like at least the old school players. And I know there's a lot of new school players that probably just don't give a fuck. They're like, this is really cringe. I don't care. I just want a game. Shut up. That is what kills RuneScape. Like that kind of mentality is what inevitably kills this game. So anyway, now I want to, before I move on to the Ruinous Powers poll blog, I am going on the Real Homie Hour podcast, which is hosted by Mick and Lopsy. So I will be on there with Solo Mission. Me and Solo Mission are the two guests that are going on that cast on Saturday. I don't know exactly when it'll be updated, but down in the description, once again, for the 30th time, down in the description, go follow Mick's channel down there. That's where all the Real Homie Hour podcasts are. And so if you subscribe to him, you will be notified when I and Solo Mission are on their podcast. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a face cam podcast, so, it's got that extra element of fun. So yeah, go drop some support for him. And now we can finally move on to the Ruinous Powers Beta V2. Okay, so I'm really happy with some of these changes. I just briefly overlooked it. I was watching some AddyCon earlier on Twitch. I was watching some Scotty just messing around with the prayers. I think it's cool. So, wait, what? Why is the R backward? What the hell? Look at that. Look at that Desert Treasure. The second R in treasure is backward. That's so interesting. Okay, let's see. Okay, so first, there is a change log. The only thing I saw in here that I wanted to mention was free-to-play players will now be able to sell members' items on the Grand Exchange in case they're trying to scrape together enough for another bond. I think that's kind of cool, kind of interesting. Okay. Want a beta test on updated set of Ruinous Powers? We'd love to hear your thoughts on these destructive Desert Treasure 2 rewards. Tournament worlds are open once more, so dive in and let us know what you think. The previous Ruinous Powers beta ended early due to the sheer volume of feedback, coupled with a busy schedule for the team, so we thought we'd offer another beta when we were ready to address feedback. That's today, folks. Before we get into the adjustments we've made to these powerful prayers, a note about how you'll acquire them. Some can be unlocked as boss drops. Annihilate and Vaporize will require you to have unlocked Rigor and Augury, and others are given at the end of the quest. That's really nice. I'm glad that they're, doing that, so you can't just like skip over chambers. In terms of improvements, there were a handful of key issues for us to focus on. Deflect prayers guaranteed chip damage was clearly a non-starter. Amen. See, this is why I yell about it in all my rambles, how horrible chip damage is, because sometimes things will happen if, enough outcry is given. I'm not saying I'm the one that did that. I think a lot of players hated that, so that's good that we talk about it. Initially, we'd considered an increase to the reflected damage, but this wouldn't have gone any way towards cutting down on chip damage when using the Ruinous Powers. For this reason, we decided to switch to Dampened Prayers, which grant 100% damage reduction against the corresponding style, but will increase your damage taken by 10%, which means getting your prayers wrong or getting hit off prayer will punish you more than on the standard prayer book, and you'll take slightly more chip damage in places where it already occurs, but won't introduce chip damage into places that don't already have any. It's also, this is important, it's also worth remembering that old school always rounds down, so if an NPC would hit you for a 19, you'd take an extra 1 damage. That's really nice. So, yeah. If you're hit a 9, it doesn't even reflect anything to you, which is really cool. A 9 or lower. The risk component outweighed the reward for many players. The changes to overheads go some way to addressing this, but there are specific prayers and other aspects we've tweaked for better balance. Vindication gave you extra damage for triggering its effect at low hit points, which seemed novel on paper, but a lot of players, especially among skilled PVMers, felt that it encouraged unhealthy play patterns by incentivizing people to repeatedly force themselves to low HP and proc Vindication to achieve competitive DPS. Plus, while Vindication was effectively an aggressive spin on Redemption, it had such a low heal amount to be unusable in places where Redemption normally does the job, such as Vespula's room in Chambers of Xeric. Our solution: make Vindication function exactly like Redemption. Rebuke was our attempt to make Vengeance more appealing, since it's fallen out of favor compared to other thralls in the Arceus spellbook. However, asking players to sacrifice a protection prayer and take additional damage on top made this a pretty unappealing option for many. So we're going to try to remove this bonus damage component and replacing the passive recoil effect with a boost to any active recoil effects like Vengeance or Rings of Recoil. This should make it more rewarding to use in cases where you might risk a juiced up Vengeance to shave a few seconds off your PB. The lack of Protect item was intended to add some extra monetary risk in PvP scenarios, since usually players looking to increase their powers in PvP are opting into increased risked wealth. Many of you felt that the reduced defensive bonuses offered by the Ruinous powers were risky enough on their own, and that the lack of Protect item would put them off of using them in PvP, or would just encourage them to bring cheaper gear instead, thus reducing weapon variety in PvP. With all that in mind, coupled with the decreased strength bonus offered by the pinnacle of offensive prayers, we've decided we'd better enable Protect item on the Ruinous powers. Simple. Okay, that's cool. I don't mind that. I'm not a PvPer. Fumus, Glacies, Cruor Vow didn't feel to use or give prayers much room for decision making. The vows were a later addition to the Ruinous powers than most, and we've given them a little more thought this time around. Glacies' vow effectively functioned as a passive about or just under 2% DPS increase while active, with the added side effects of giving some extra RNG to KO potential in PvP through what are essentially added max hits. More on that in just a bit. With Vaporize making the Ruinous powers the book of choice for magic users, we decided to rework this as a reliable means of reducing your target's magic level and give you a little extra oomph over time. We're aware this one might need toning down in PvP or adjusting outright, so let us know your thoughts on its updated form. Again, guys, there are the beta test worlds, so you guys can all check this out. Cruor's Vow gave a 10% chance to heal 10% of damage you dealt, which is a fancy way of saying 1% lifesteal while active. Lifesteal, life leech, or sustain effects in general are notoriously difficult to strike the right balance with. Too much and you risk something being completely overpowered. We don't want to name names, but we're talking about Soul Split. Too little and you risk something just not being worth using at all. We tried to err on the side of caution and opted for a value that was too little in this case. And as a result, it didn't feel particularly engaging to use. To fix this problem, we've instead made Cruor's Vow function similarly to Karis Partisan of the Sun, where you'll trade prayer points for hit points if you kill NPCs with this prayer active. Okay, to say Fumus Vow wasn't working quite as we intended is an understatement. While we're sure many of you chasing a twisted bow would love to kill every enemy in the tightrope room within 10 ticks, it's probably not for the best. We've touched Fumus Vow up to be a little simpler and effectively boost your damage with poison weapons by dealing a poison hit splat instantly whenever you would apply poison of a higher severity than that's already affecting an NPC. Okay. Some players shared concerns about max hit creep, particularly in PvP scenarios. We're not looking to dive too deep right down to the different types of power increases impact PvP and PvM differently, or how aiming for consistency in all scenarios between both PvM and PvP can make it difficult at times to move both of these areas forward healthily. That being said, there were valid concerns raised by players surrounding extra max hits in PvP and the increase in KO potential. We elected to knock the strength and ranged strength boosts on Decimate and Annihilate down a peg, and adjust accuracy to compensate. The hope is that the Ruinous powers still provide the damage potential many of you liked, but arrive at the DPS increase by a more sensible route. I like that. Okay, here's a compact list of everything that's changed since last time, so you have all the info in one place. Ruinous Powers Beta 2.0 change list. All right, let's go over this. Overhead protection prayers have been changed from deflect prayers to dampen prayers. Dampen prayers grant 100% damage reduction against the corresponding style, but increase your damage taken by 10%. Annihilate and Decimate have their range, strength, and strength bonuses reduced from 30% to 27%. Annihilate and Decimate have had their range and melee accuracy bonuses increased from 20 to 25%. Gambit has been reworked into a fourth pinnacle offensive prayer called Intensify. Intensify increases your accuracy with all combat styles by 40% when activated, but cannot be used at the same time of other pinnacle offensive prayers, Annihilate, Decimate, and Vaporize. Prayer level requirements for each of the pinnacle offensive prayers have been increased to better reflect their power. Glacier's Vow has been reworked and will now reduce your target's magic level by 10% of damage dealt, up to a maximum of 15% magic level reduction. Cruel's Vow has been reworked and will now consume 3 prayer points to heal 3 hit points when killing an NPC. Fuma's Vow has been reworked. While active, applying poison to an NPC will cause first poison damage tick to apply instantly. Okay. This means if the poison you're applying has a higher poison severity than whatever poison is currently affecting an enemy, you'll see extra hit splats. In simpler terms, turn this on for a little extra oomph when using any poison weapons. Vindication has been reworked to trigger 10% of your hit points and restore them by 25% of your prayer level, the same as Redemption. Rebuke has been reworked and will no longer increase your damage taken, or grant passive recoil damage, but amplify the damage that other recoil effects grant by 50%. Protect item has been added, and prayer point drain rates are lower across the board. Beyond the Ruinous Powers themselves, there's one more piece of feedback we'd like to address, and this is the prayer reordering in third-party clients. We had feedback from the initial beta that new prayers were difficult to get grips on with muscle memory. We've changed our guidelines on third-party clients to address this. So I want to just say something real quick before we go on. In the actual game, I actually haven't logged into the betas yet, like to actually see where the prayers are located, but I really hope it doesn't look like it, at least like according to the streams I've seen with people using these. I wish you could actually move the prayers exactly to these positions with the new prayer book. So I believe that there's only 5 rows of prayers. There's not even 6 with the Ruinous Powers. I almost wish that you could, like when you're rearranging, you could move, like, for example, this to here. Not exactly here, but like, you know how like there's only 5 rows on Ruinous Powers. I wish you could lower it down to the 6th row, just so like these prayers, like the muscle memory literally stays exactly the same. Instead of like, yeah, it looks somewhat similar. I don't know. I just really hope that they're going to allow the prayers to be placed like exactly where this orb is, you know? Like this and this and this. I don't know. I think it would be cool, like the exact pixels almost were the exact same. That's my personal take. I think that would just be really, really nice and warranted in my personal opinion, but we'll see what Jagex does. Yeah, anyway. Back in March, we added prayer filtering to Old School following an 85% yes vote in Poll 78. Many of you feel our implementation didn't quite meet expectations and have suggested improvements. We plan to revisit prayer filtering in the future, but in the meantime, we're granting third-party clients such as RuneLite our blessing to re-enable this functionality. Hell yes. I'm so glad they did that. Thank you, Jagex. The best way to play RuneLite and keep your account secure is by using the Jagex launcher, which can be found here. So yeah, this is how you do it. We hope this helps in the upcoming beta, freeing up more of your brain to get a feel for the balance of prayers themselves, rather than wondering whether or not you're using the corrective offensive prayers at all. Additional reward tweaks. Beyond the Ruinous Powers, we've made a couple reward changes that you'll be able to experiment with in the beta. Virtus Robes no longer provide additional effects to ancient elements. Many players felt the Ancient Scepter upgrades in Virtus Robes shared a little too much, and in some cases would combine in unhealthy ways, such as repeatedly draining magic levels in PvP interactions when using shadow spells. The magic damage for ancient spells is unchanged and remains at 12% for the full set. In a similar vein, we've adjusted the bonus sets of various Ancient Scepter upgrades. Blood, Blood Magic can now overheal you by 10% of your hit points. Ice spells gain 10% accuracy on unfrozen freezable targets. Shadow spells also drain strength and defense in addition to the target's attack level. Smoke spells reduce healing received by 20% for 10 ticks, 6 seconds on hit if target is poisoned. The Soul Reaper's Axe strength bonus has been increased from 115 to 121. The Soul Reaper's Axe stacking buffs now take 10 ticks, 6 seconds of non-attacking before they start to decrease. Okay. Let's cover a little bit of this Bounty Hunter. So the thing is, I haven't even touched Bounty Hunter. I'm not a PvPer. So a lot of this, I don't know. Maybe I'll just I feel like I'm about to lose right now, because if I talk about it, people are like, why are you talking about it? You don't know anything that's going on. But if I don't talk about it, people are going to be like, oh my God, you hate PvP. So yeah, I'm just going to skip over this, but it's not because I hate PvP. It's because I literally won't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I am totally down to get like a PvPer on. I've actually been thinking about that. I've been thinking of getting 2 different PvPers on for maybe a Sabe cast, or maybe just an unofficial ramble, the one like I did with Mod Soft and West Ham and Belle Delphine, and we could just talk about Bounty Hunter and the things that are good and the things that can change. So let me know down in the comments if you guys are interested in something like that, because yeah, I am just going to skip this. Pride 2023, yep, Pride update came out. Game Jam, April 2023. Is there any? I'm just I hadn't even looked through any of this. I only looked through the Ruinous Powers. Okay, cool. If there's anything really important that I missed on this section, I just don't want this to carry on for too long. It was mainly about the Ruinous Powers. So if I missed anything very, very important, let me know down in the comments, boys, as always. And yeah, who is actually doing crack? Let me know down in the comments if you're doing crack. Is anybody doing this? I'm sorry. I love Wooks to death, but this is just huh? Anyway, okay, so just a few announcements before I end, boys. I am going on the Real Homie Hour podcast, which is happening on Saturday. I don't know when that'll be released, but go follow Mick on his YouTube channel. It'll be linked down in the description very clearly for you guys. If you didn't know that all of the Sabe rambles are on Spotify, so if you love using Spotify and stuff like that, go down and just give it a little follow. So, everything's in one place. Sabe Ramble, Sabe casts are all on Spotify and other podcasting platforms. And Autumn Elegy is going to be on the cast tomorrow. That'll be uploaded on Friday. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about game integrity and other things inevitably. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. I apologize for my sickness. I hope that wasn't too annoying. And, yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.